And good day, good night. Welcome to Five Rings Daily, an Olympic podcast. PyeongChang, that's where I am at day 11. It's PyeongChang 2018. Duane, good morning.
Morning. It's day 11. It's the lack of sleep's beginning to catch up a little bit. Had a little trouble shaking the cobwebs out today, but we're up and ready to go.
We're still here.
We're
still here.
Yeah. Don't have the rest of my work suffering a little bit, so I'm gonna have to hope I can hit that Patreon button so I can eat next month. But nonetheless, here we are. We're gonna keep doing this to the end. We'll do we got 17 days in these things, so we got 6 days left of the Olympics. We'll probably do a wrap-up show as well. I haven't figured out exactly what we're gonna do with the Paralympics yet. That depends a little bit on that Patreon, not to be belaboring that, but. Yeah. But yeah, we'll get something out there for that too, a preview at least, and probably a wrap up. But if we can get some more Patreon support, then maybe we'll do some coverage during the games. But nonetheless, we'll move forward today on day 11 and talk about kind of a pretty exciting day at times for Canada, disappointing day too, the interesting day across the Olympic platform for sure.
Yeah, patreon.com/sports podcast network. By the way, your support goes a long way in the production of this show with the production values that you're used to and everything else that comes with it. Your support is more than greatly appreciated. It is instrumental. All right, let's start by our medals for day 11. Let's start with the negative today because I kind of have to go on a small rant today, Duane. So let's start with a wood medal, and I'm going to the Gangnam Arena, where short track speed skating is. You remember that song, right? Gangnam Style. That's the part of the world they're talking about in that song, Gangnam Style. Well, forever, at least in my mind, starting today, Gangnam Style means totally different. It means now getting a raw deal. It means for me now getting cheated out of a medal. It means for me now, home crowd, intimidating the judges. At least that's what we can tell. Hopefully there's nothing else going on, and that I don't know. But the red flag in my mind has been raised. And I raised a similar red flag in 2014, seeing a lot of Russians winning a lot of medals where they're not supposed to. And turns out there was something there. I think there's something here. And I'm talking about the way South Koreans are never since that decision that led to Kim Bute having her bronze medal at the 500 meters women's short track earlier last week. Since that moment, not one decision was favorable for the Canadians. Not one decision was unfavorable for South Korean. South Koreans were not getting DQ'd, even though sometimes they were doing questionable passing. And I'm not saying that they should be DQ'd, but I'm saying it's kind of not a coincidence, and I'm not alone recognizing that pattern, that the Canadians, at least, are never getting any results going their way, Chalamlay especially, and in the relay, the women's earlier this morning or tonight if you're in PyeongChang time. But I do feel there's something there, the way, at least that's the objective way to look at this without seeing conspiracy everywhere. This is tangible. The crowd is very loud, Duane, right? The crowd is very raucous, very passionate, and very intimidating because it's very pro-South Korean. It's like full of South Koreans, and this is their national sport. And you do have that intimidation aspect of the reactions of them every time they do a pass. So even if that pass example, it's a quiet arena, okay, Duane, so just bear with me for a second. It's a quiet arena, there's a questionable pass, you have a gasp of the crowd, like, oh, reaction. In this case, there's a questionable pass, by example, a South Korean, or a move and somebody falls, but the crowd's so happy that they're going on a move forward, they're clapping and cheering, and it's like positive. And whenever they look at the replay, of course, there's no sounds, but they're like, do we really want to start to create an atmosphere that maybe not necessarily the most safe in this arena? Maybe we're gonna err it in the side of caution on this one and not DQ the South Korean. And that like subconscious decision, not saying it happened today, but I'm saying it's not a coincidence that a lot of the Canadian calls over the last few days in the short track well, they've been against them and not for them. And we all know what happened on social media and everything last week with Kim Boutin. So that's my wood medal for today. The Gangnam officials in short track. And hopefully there's nothing else behind. And when I say hopefully, I hope there's no collusion, I hope there's no conspiracy, and I hope there's no fixing behind the scenes.
Yeah, look, you got to be careful with this, and I don't want to make this about Canada missing out on what would have likely been a bronze medal, because I don't want to make this person.
Could have been Italy, right? Italy was there too, and I'm just saying.
Well, Italy got the silver. It's Korea or China was the other country that was disqualified. The Dutch ended up with the bronze medal by winning the B final. So bizarre decision. From the purely Canadian standpoint, a lot of Canadians are frustrated because they don't get how it was the Korean skater fell in front of her, knocked her over, and because in the virtue of knocking her off her feet, she knocked her out of the play, and because of that, they just got to. It doesn't make any sense. So,
and it was at the moment where the relay was being made, and the Canadian skater didn't have the chance to touch Malte, and she was stripped. If she would have touched her, and then continue, would have been fine. But because she missed her by like an inch, because that's exactly where she was stripped, and then she got up and she tried to touch it, but she touched a Chinese girl because they're both wearing red. That's how everybody was confused. Anyways, in that moment, she got inside the track too. And if you go inside the track, inside of a block, you have to come back out and continue the laps and continue all the laps. And that's the reason why Canada was DQ'd, is at that moment, they didn't go around that block and didn't continue that loop and make the exact exchange and then continue on with the relay. Otherwise, they would have had that medal. But she was stripped. Anyways, you'll see the replay for a long time. I'm just saying, something weird happened in Gangnam Arena.
Well, look, I mean, again, I don't want to make this about Korea per se, but we do have a couple examples from things that Korea has hosted in the past that there's been some results that are a little suspect. You go way back to 1988, Park Sing-hoon, the boxer, and Roy Jones Jr., the famous American boxer that went on to a very successful professional career and absolutely dominated Sing-hoon in the gold medal bout there. It resulted in the American just having a protest in the ring after the result, because it was just one of the most bizarre and lopsided boxing decisions. It was a boxing decision that ultimately led to a change in the rules, right? It was that suspicious. So you have that, and then go back to 2002, Italy versus Korea in the World Cup. And I say this carefully because I have a few Korean friends that look at that game as their highlight of their, one of the highlights of the sporting history of that country. And, those of us outside that country look at that game and go, what the hell is happening in that game? Because it didn't make a lot of sense, some of the decisions that were made.
Are you talking about the same team that won the World Cup 4 years after? Lost to Korea, eh? Huh.
Well, things can happen. I mean, Manchester City lost to Wigan yesterday in the FA Cup. Things can happen. But that game had some decisions that were suspect, to say the least. So there is a history of this. And if you go back and listen to our previews, the preview, I said bluntly in the preview about short track that suspect the South Koreans to do very, very well. And part of the reason I thought they would do well is because the decisions, and it is a sport that relies a lot on decisions, might go their way a little bit more often than they might have otherwise, simply because of that home crowd advantage. And that happens in any Olympics, regardless of where they are, where you do get a bit of a home bump. And I think a lot of the home bump has to do with this type of stuff. All right.
And Duane, just to mention, the one time where the decision didn't go their way and it went to Canada for Boutin, there was life threats online on Boutin's life, on social media, that were taken very seriously by Canadian authorities and the IOC and in PyeongChang itself. So I was like, okay, maybe we'll just give them the decision. Let's give them short track to make sure everything else goes well. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, if that's, take the conspiracy stuff out of it and just go human nature, right? Like, it's, if you're going to be intimidated either subconsciously or consciously to view things pro-Korean in that environment, and that's unfortunate that sort of stuff, and judging in general gets unfortunate. I'm going to change my wood medal a little bit so we talk about something a little different, but originally I just had short track penalties down as mine because it's getting a bit much in that competition, which I usually enjoy, but it's taking away from my enjoyment this time, is because every damn race has a review, and it's just like, why don't you just tell us? Why don't you just do it behind closed doors and tell us who won at this point? Because there's what happens on the ice has very little to do with what's ended up going on anyway. So
it goes even deeper than this. You remember a few days ago, my wood medal was the video review because of short track and because the athletes don't even celebrate now when they cross the line because they're waiting to look at the monitor. Samuel Girard in the previews on CBC, he was talking about, what's this picture? It's like a short segment where it's like talk about a picture and show a picture of him, and what's that? Show a picture of him celebrating. He's like, yeah, that's what I was celebrating when I crossed the line because I knew I was in front by like 10 laps and I didn't touch anyone, so I knew it was a clean win and I knew I could celebrate. Which means that goes through their psyche when they cross the line. Like, okay, did I have a clean race? Can I celebrate? You should have control of your raw emotions and not have your brain let you know, okay, you can't celebrate now because you have to look at the monitor. I think short track is running the risk of becoming NASCAR, where rules changes week in, week out. It doesn't matter. You do all for show, all for the spectacle, all for this time, not consistency. It's becoming difficult to watch.
I don't know what the answer is because the only thing that would work to try and avoid the contact stuff would be to put them in lanes, and I don't think that's possible because of the outside lane.
It's not short track. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. So at any rate, all right. So I'm going to change my wood medal a little bit on the spot here, and this just wrapped up a few minutes ago, and it's Kaylee Humphrey's setup and her sled for the two-woman bobsled competition. The defending two-time gold medalist is clearly having the best lines of the competition. If you watch it, she doesn't hit at the walls. She's driving exceptionally clean, but yet for some reason she's behind the sliders that are banging into walls left, right, and center, and still going down faster.
The two German teams, one of them is like a rookie almost. It was her first year in the World Cup, Kohler, and she's doing like not necessarily the nicest lines, like you mentioned, banging the walls, and it's the runners, it's the runs, it's the metal sliders that are. You have a few of them, right? And Kaylee may not have chosen the right one for the first two heats.
So the technical side of things, which is part of the sport, for better or worse, I tweeted it this morning that maybe they need to go you'd mentioned NASCAR earlier. Maybe they need to emulate NASCAR a little bit, because one of the things about NASCAR that a lot of people think makes it the best test of pure driving skill is the fact that the cars have specifications that they all have to be within, that allows that R&D to have less of an influence. Maybe I think that in some ways that would be better off if bobsled would do that, and it would, make their sport a little more democratic if they had sort of generic sleds that all competitors used at the competitions. That might make it a more accessible sport and would be a better test to the driving abilities. But I don't think that's going to happen. And you have BMW with exclusive contracts with the American team to create their sleds, and the Germans spending millions of dollars on their sleds to make sure that they're ahead of the game. And then, it sort of takes it away from the actual athletic pursuit and makes it more of a R&D kind of research and development, in case you don't know what I mean by that, sort of competition that has a little bit of athletic skill involved in it too. I enjoy the sport, so I get this. And I know, Kevin, you like F1, so you're used to this kind of idea, but it sort of does take something away when you watch what clearly is the best drive of the competition end up in fifth place. It's kind of strange, and they're going to need to figure something out overnight. And Canada obviously can get it done because they won the two-man competition. So I think this was just a mistake that someone in the coaching staff made. They read the ice wrong or whatever. So that's unfortunate for her. So
I'll make ice, that. It's usually ice and weather conditions. So if the weather condition is not necessarily assessed properly, it could lead to a wrong choice in the runners. So we'll see if it gets better for Kaylee Humphreys, especially. Hopefully, yes. She's fifth now, still in podium and even gold medal contention, and she clawed that gap with her second run, but she is going to have to work hard to make sure that she gets back in winning contention for maybe a third straight medal in Olympic game. Speaking of bobsled, go ahead, Duane.
I was just going to say, I think gold's out of the question at this point based on the start today. She's clawed back before, but I think a bronze is what she'd be aiming for now, and that would still be 3 consecutive Olympics where she medaled, and which would be only the second time that it happened. And I will probably be talking about the first time it happened a little later on in this podcast. You go ahead, Kevin, and set up our poutine medal.
Yes, well, we're talking about bobsleigh, and that's where we're going for a poutine medal. The former teammate and double gold medalist Heather Moyes as well. She won in 2010 and 2014 with Kaylee Humphries in the two-woman bobsleigh competition. Heather Moyes has made a comeback, but let's put it out there. She never really quit the sport. She quit competing at the highest level, and she had a falling out with Kaylee Humphries. When you're competing at the highest level and you have a business relationship with a partner, and at some point, sometimes forks do cross, and you need to change direction for the better of both partners. So when you look at it this way, you do have a feeling of, look, we're not necessarily agreeing on the future of their partnership or how things should be done. They decide to part ways, and it's all the best for it. She helped the new crop of sliders in the world of bobsleigh get experience. She shared that experience at the National Training Center, and she's making a comeback to competition. Never really have left the sport, but Heather Moyes now back at the Olympic Games, we could say, in a way, in a different role, and almost in a mentor, in a variable that you can control to assess the talent of that driver and to make sure that you maybe propel that driver a little higher up the standings than it would be if it wasn't that type of pusher.
Yeah, the brakes person, I guess is what you'd say in the women's game, is a kind of an unheralded position right there, right? We always talk about Kaylee Humphries and her two-time gold medalist and the potential to become the first Canadian to win 3 consecutive gold medals. And Kaylee Humphries was the athlete of the year. The year that she won the second straight gold medal in 2014, she was the flag bearer in the closing ceremonies, but Heather Moyes was there the whole time, right? So in some ways, she's been kind of got the raw end of the stick in terms of the attention that she receives, and that's not what this is all about. Heather Moyes is just an athletic freak of nature too. She's represented Canada in rugby. She was a track athlete at one point. She played basketball. Like she's
and
been
she never
competitive.
Duane, and she never lifted weight until she was 28. Can you just imagine?
Yeah.
Can you just imagine what could have been? But that's not what it's about right now.
Yeah, she's really has the athletic genes that people dream of, right? So absolutely a multi-sport athlete that's coming back to compete in another Olympics and kind of in a quasi-coaching role right now. So I thought that was worthwhile to first off point out that she's also a two-time gold medal defending champion, although she's not going to likely be close to the podium this time. That sled is, I think, in 7th right now, so it's not a bad result whatsoever. Yeah. But worthwhile pointing out and worthwhile celebrating her successes over the years in a way that maybe she hasn't got quite the attention, because the pilot tends to get most of the attention. It's just like curling that way, right?
Yeah,
you don't talk about the it's all about the skip. It's Team Holman, which goes good and bad, and bad last night. So it's
we're just gonna take a small break. We're having connection problem with Duane. I can barely hear you, Duane. You're cutting in and out with the connection, so I'm gonna call Duane on his cell phone. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with our bronze medal for day 11. And we're back. I have Duane back on the line as well. Duane, so now we've talked about Heather Moyes, poutine medal. She did a great job coaching for a few years and back. Now it's time to talk about positives medal, as continuing to talk about positive medal. Bronze medal for day 11. How about you start today?
I'm going to give it to Casey Sharp, the gold medalist in the ski half pipe for Canada last night. Just a dominating performance. A woman who's been near the top of the podium for a while. And what I found remarkable about this was how, in the past, there's been this sort of meme in Canada that our top ranked athletes would choke basically at the Olympics. They wouldn't be able to replicate their World Cup performance, their World Championship performance in an Olympic scene. And I think part of that was because we had so few athletes that were considered gold medal contenders that maybe the pressure got to them a little bit. But now that there's so many contenders, and when medals don't work out, there's not quite this sort of like, oh God, God help us all, sort of feeling that exists throughout the Canadian community, that it allows our top-ranked athletes to sort of step up and replicate those performances. And Ms. Sharp was absolutely there. She was the class of that competition. The defending gold medalist fell all 3 times, and the last time was pretty heavy. It looked pretty dangerous there for a while. So other than that, the French woman that is also a great story, and I could have put her in as a medal as well. The sense that she, was a competitor in the competition when it was just an X Games sort of thing, and the Olympics were just a pipe dream, and then retired for 6 or 7 years. And when she heard the Olympics were coming back in 2014, decided to get back in, and still, 4 years later, is still competing and wins a silver medal, her second straight silver medal. So good story there as well. But Casey Sharp, gold medalist for Canada yesterday, and what is a very exciting event. The men's competition will go tonight, and that's going to be even crazier because the heights are higher, right? It's a dangerous sport too. If you watch the men's qualifying, there was a Swiss rider that went up about 5 meters in the air and landed hard on the top of the thing. It was I was scared for his health there for a little while. There's a reason those X Games sports are called extreme, right? And that's why. But yeah, Casey Sharp is my bronze medalist today.
Well, my bronze medalist is Cassie Sharp as well. Cassie Sharp, our 1080 back land, I don't even know how to call it, but our 1080 truck driver, I think so. Maybe it's lawnmower driver. I don't know.
The truck driver is how you go when you grab.
Yes, it's a grab. I know.
Front.
Yes.
It was a switch 1080 something,
yes.
But yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so Cassie Sharp did a gold medal for Canada. She did talk about like her parents but you know what really caught my attention is her authenticity or genuineness, and it's one thing that we talk about not enough. It's ski sports. Like for a long time, halfpipe was just snowboard, and as much as snowboard in the early 90s was ignored by the rest of the skiing world, extreme skiing was ignored by the extreme world for a long time, until pioneers like the late Sarah Burke fought hard to get slopestyle and halfpipe skiing in the Olympics. And now with those sports there, we see actually a different type of extreme sports. The one big difference between skiing and snowboarding sometimes is the amount of speed they get in a short amount of sliding time. So in a halfpipe where you need speed to be able to execute high velocity turns like a 1080 or double McTwist, double rodeos and all those, you need amplitude to make those. So with the skiing aspect, you do see those riders get that speed. It's so impressive to watch. And I'm giving my bronze medal today to Cassie Sharp as well. Gold medal, freestyle skiing, halfpipe.
Just quickly, part of the reason why the extreme sports were reluctant to put the skiers in has to do with those of you that are listening to this podcast that are maybe younger than, say, 25 wouldn't probably understand this fully. But like back in the early 90s, late 80s, snowboards were like the difference. There was like a rivalry between skiing and snowboards, right? Like skiers didn't like snowboarders, and snowboarders found skiers to be like, well, square or whatever. They weren't cool like they were. So there was a resistance in both worlds to allow the other to cross over. So it's only been kind of recently that sort of divide has ceased to exist. And now, snowboarding is as mainstream as anything, right? So the idea that they would be precluding skiing from being in the same disciplines as them is a bit absurd now, but it does make sense historically speaking. So yeah, it is good. And you're right. They are different a little bit to watch. I do think that you get a little more speed, as you say, with skis, simply because of just the nature of the what you're sliding on, that allows for them to be pretty spectacular. But at the same time, I think because you only have the one device on your feet, you can flip a little tighter on the snowboarding. So it makes for a difference in how they compete in the both on your big air, which they don't have in the Olympics, and in the half pipe.
Well, big air will be there eventually, though. That's the thing. Ski big air is going to have to come. It has to be equal, right? So, and they're going to need more events to fill time anyways. And you'll see tonight in the qualification for big air for the men snowboard how impressive it will be. So imagine just this on skis too. And then when we see ski do this, we'll be like, so why do we have ski jump? Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the reasons why freestyle skiing big air is not there, because when you think about it, it's kind of similar to ski jump, but on top of it, you twist and turn. And look, I love ski jump. I don't know why I keep bashing ski jump this year. I love it, but yes.
Fair enough.
Let's move.
All right, so silver.
Silver, yes.
Do you want me to go first? All right, my silver is going back to bobsled would be Team GB 1, which is only one team, and it really isn't supported by Great Britain and Team GB. McNeil's the woman's name that is the driver of the sled. They are self-funded, and they are sitting in sixth after 2 runs. It's just I think when you see someone that's had to go out and raise their own money, sort of take their own support onto their own, especially when it's in a country the size of Great Britain, which has a lot of resources for Olympic athletes, to have her funding pulled because of her results, and then basically to throw it back in their face with what is a top 10 performance, which should be celebrated and well be celebrated, is a remarkable story in a sport that is so financially driven, as I said earlier. So for them to be sitting in sixth right now is a very, very, very good result, and maybe, in terms of pure driving, might even be a higher result, because the sled technology will just simply not be there, because when you're self-funded, you are basically worrying about traveling around and dragging that sled and getting that sled on airplanes to get to World Cup events in Calgary and where have you, right? And that's expensive to do, and you can't put as much money into, shaving fractions of a second off through research and development. So good story there, Kevin. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And they're still having a lot more training time than Nigeria did. And Nigeria is a bit of, as much as it's a great story, we talked about it, a lot of the bobsleigh world actually are kind of looking at the Nigerian bobsled team and kind of like frowning upon them a bit, because it's more about the show. It's more about the glitz and glamour of trying to get to the Olympic than the practice run. And if you watch their first run today, yeah, the second was a bit better, but I got scared the first one because they hit the wall. They were wobbling. I was like, is this going to finish the same way Cool Runnings did? I'm talking about the movie where they're sliding on their head through the finish line. Had a moment of a deja vu when I was seeing this Nigerian bobsleigh team going down. But no, you're right. Team GB self-funded and still better than half, if not more, than the field.
It's interesting, that Nigeria story, because we've heard nothing but positives about it, as you say, and I found that very interesting to hear that, and I was surprised to hear it too, because I think often commentators are reluctant to sort of talk about the negative aspects of what's happening out there. But
I think there's jealousy from the rest of the bobsled world, because they don't get that type of attention to begin with. I think there might be a bit of that, but there might be a bit of truth to the, okay, you got all the attention, now focus on training, will you?
Yeah, well, no, I see it from... There could be a bit of jealousy there, for sure. But I do actually understand where they're coming from, too, especially if because they're out there seeing it, right? And if they're seeing these guys get all the attention, because Jamaica got a lot of attention back in the day, but they were accepted into it because I think that they picked up that they were athletes and they were trying their best to improve themselves. And we've seen the improvement of the Jamaican team. So what I'm getting out of this is that, oh, great, you're on Ellen, but you don't seem to want to train out there. And this is a sport that's dangerous if you don't train, you don't try and get your reps in, right? And what the worst thing that can happen to bobsled in many ways for their attention across the board is if something happens to them. If they get hurt out there, it's going to hurt their sport. And I think that they view it that way too, that they don't want their sport to be viewed negatively because someone got hurt out there, and they, that's something that is interesting. Well, it's not interesting, but it's something that they're probably considering when they're reacting to this. But certainly if you look at what Jamaica did, again, they're down because they don't have the money to get that sort of sled technology that other countries do, but nonetheless much better and much cleaner lines, yeah, and a much more accomplished team out there, a legitimate team, if not a contending team, a legitimate team out there.
Look, if Jamaica, we're talking about the two women bobsleigh here again. If Jamaica had the sled of Team Nigeria, Jamaica would be a lot better than it is right now. Just because Nigeria and their crowdfunding aspect that was really successful because of their time on Ellen, well, they got good equipment. Their equipment is not bad at all. Their sled is actually better than a lot of countries' sleds. And not saying that they're not worthy of it. What we're saying is, from people close to the situation, maybe all the efforts were not taken with all the opportunities they have. Saying other bobsled athletes would have probably embrace that situation and train every day for months for this, and it wasn't the case here. But anyways, let's move to my silver medal, Duane. And my silver medal goes to a Frenchman that already has 3 gold medals so far in PyeongChang. 3 medals of biathlon, 2 single, and the relay as well that happened today. Martin Fourcade of France, an army officer of 29 years old that never misses with his gun and can catch up with you on his skis, even uphill, downhill, doesn't matter. You're 10 seconds ahead. That's nothing. Martin Fourcade has been impressive throughout those games, and watching the biathlon relay, the man, I really got the sense of, wow, this athlete is ahead above the field.
Yeah, and he was heading into the games one of the people that most people looked at it as a potential five-time medal winner in the Olympics, and he missed out in the first event of the games, and that was shocking to people. But since then has quietly turned it around. Quietly, I say, because biathlon doesn't get a lot of attention where I am, because there's no real Canadian content in it, so we don't see a lot of it. But nonetheless, it is obviously that one of the most dominant athletes in the Olympics in their discipline, and one that is going to end up as being a top star in these games for sure. Kevin, shall I go to my gold now? Which I think there was only – I almost made my gold. I almost texted you earlier to say that we should –
I hate when you do that, though, because we kind of have to. I know it's not sexy and it's easy and it may be too easy. We have the feeling, it's too easy. We can't choose it. But, Duane, what else can we say? What else can we choose? We're going to get we're going to get booed off the air by our fans if we don't choose that one.
Well, what I was going to text you is to say that maybe we'll have a platinum medal today, but I chose not to, because I figured that we just keep it the format the same.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one gold medal, and this isn't being Canadian centric to do this today, and that's a virtue in Scott Moir with their world record performance, gold medal, becoming the first ice dance team to win 2 gold medals over 3 Olympiads, becoming the all-time most decorated figure skaters in Olympic history. Again, there's an asterisk to that because the team event is only 2 Olympics in, but nonetheless.
Yeah, but even though, you had Olympic couples, Duane, skate over 4 or 5 Olympics. So the opportunity was there. The fact that it was team or not only made a difference because you only can get 1 medal a year. But the fact that there have been couples that skated for 5 Olympics. So I'm not saying that it was never possible. What we're saying is it might be easier starting this year to do, but it was always possible still. That there has been pairs that have done 4 or 5 Olympics.
Yeah, no, but you go beyond it that way too. Like, let's forget figure skating and go, Canada. Scott Moir is now tied Scott Moir is alone as the most decorated male Olympian in Canadian history with 5 medals. I believe he's all alone. I'm trying to think here off the top of my head. She is
Marc Gagnon's got
second.
5 too. Marc Gagnon's got 5.
Yeah, Marc Gagnon. So yeah, they're tied for sure.
Ameline's got 5 as well, and I think we're talking about Winter Olympics. I think Hamlin's got 5. So I think we're.
Well, I looked it up last night. It's just Gagnon.
Okay, so just Gagnon. So Hamlin's got 4, and he was looking for that 5 this year. So that's what it was.
Yeah, and if you look at Scott Moir with the 3 golds now, Gagnon was 2 golds and 3 bronze is what his 5 was. So really, if you want to look at it in terms of a medal standing, until you calculate them, Scott Moir is now the all-time most decorated male Canadian Olympian of all time, both summer and winter. In terms of the Tessa Virtue, she is tied for second behind Klassen and Clara Hughes have 6 medals, but Clara Hughes is on a different level because she's the only person in the world who's won multiple medals in both games. Yeah. So yeah, that's a unique sort of stat that a lot of Canadians, I still to this day, I don't think are aware of, and it's why she remains, I think, the greatest Canadian Olympian of all time. But nonetheless, if you look at the performance last night, I can't think of another one off the top of my head that transcends Canada and becomes an iconic Olympic moment, other than a negative moment that has ever happened involving Canada. The only other moment that transcends and becomes an historic, shown 50 years from now on Olympic channels, moment in Olympic history involving a Canadian is Ben Johnson, and that's one we probably don't want to remember, right?
Oh, this is the one I think it's bigger in a way, because for some reason, figure skating transcends sports a bit. It almost bleeds into the entertainment aspect of the water cooler talk, right? It's Bachelor meets the Olympics a bit.
Yeah,
and you have that aspect
because
that today everybody's talking about this at the water cooler, and it transcends the sports community, Olympic fans community.
Yeah, no, it's because it's because it's an artistic sport. It is attractive to people that aren't necessarily traditional sports fans. People that are more attracted to art and things like that, beauty things. The people that aren't inclined to watch a hockey game are fans of stuff like figure skating. And then you factor the Olympic aspect, the 5 rings into it, and that brings the traditional sports fan in too. So you have a more global sort of appreciation of what happened last night. So both the fans that are, sports fans, pure and pure, look at it and go, wow, what's an incredibly athletic performance. Look at that lift he made there, that when she's straddling him and he's holding her up with the weight, with both of her skates on his legs. Like, that's an incredible athletic move. And, pure sports fans look at that and go, that's amazing. But then, someone who's like, only watches figure skating in the Olympics or gymnastics maybe, or sports like that occasionally, will look at it and go, that's so beautiful. And their grace and the way that they interact with each other out there, it's beautiful to watch. So it sort of transcends, right? It goes across borders. And you're right, it is a water cooler moment. And it's not just a water cooler moment in Canada. I was reading the action from around the world last night, and they're comparing them with the famous ice dancing team of Torval and Dean from 1980. I believe that they won that, or 80 or 84, 80, whatever. The way
80,
it's long,
it was 80 in Lake Placid, yeah.
Yeah, and they are generally considered to be the most famous historical figure skating pairing of all time, and people are arguing whether Tess and Virtue have equaled them. I don't think you can, different eras, so the skill level is probably a bit higher now, but nonetheless, certainly you're being talked about amongst all-time Olympic greats in your discipline, and that's something that doesn't happen very often to Canadian athletes. As I said, other than Clara Hughes and her unique sort of multi-sport discipline thing, and even with Clara Hughes, as much as I adore her and to find her accomplishments remarkable on so many levels, she only won 1 gold medal. And only, I say, as if that's some kind of failing.
How many
in
did
life.
you win?
Yeah, exactly.
How many medals are behind you right now? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's my point. But to have 3 gold medals on top of that and to be so dominant. I mean, look, and they're by all accounts going to retire from competitive skating. You can't blame them because they can go out and make lots of money now.
Imagine now all over the world, look for your 10,000-seater arena close to you. Whenever Stars on Ice come around, go see Tessa and Scott. It'll cost you a lot, but it's going to be worth it.
But there's a competitive drive with them too that it wouldn't shock me completely that if in 2 years' time they go, why not?
Why not?
It's only 20
it's Beijing. It's going to be another fun trip. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Why not? We can try. And they'll win.
I believe he's 31 and she's 28. So
they're
it's not completely far-fetched that they could stick around for another 4. But
take another 2 years off, like you mentioned. Yeah, just go get married and then come back. Why not? Yeah. You're on your honeymoon. I don't know. We're not even know if they're together or not. But don't tell me they're not after watching what we have. Because, in life,
look, and it wasn't,
Duane, if you ever find someone that looks at you the way those two look at each other, guess what? You made it.
Yeah. Well, they know each other. There's a great video out there. I retweeted it yesterday too. It's a compilation of clips of them from like their very first television appearances. It starts when they're about 6 and 9 or 6 and 8 or whatever the age difference is there. It goes all the way through like the Canada games when they're like 11 and 12 years old, like their first appearances, junior skaters. Like it's really interesting to watch because all along the way it was obvious to anyone in the figure skating world how good they were right from the time they were like children. And they'd been together for 21 years, and she's only 28, so I guess she would have been about 7 when the first clips that were out there. So yeah, look, you can't get that kind of chemistry unless you've been with someone for a long time. And it is a remarkable sort of story there that, as I said, transcends. And even from a personal standpoint, watching it, as I've said about 6 times now already, it's not my sport. Like, it's not what I'm going to watch between Olympics. But last night watching that final dance, it was like it's stirring, right? Like, oh my God, that's so good. And the lifts were incredible. The lifts were just absolutely like staggering. That one, the way he ends, if that was their last competitive moment with him holding her weight up, her wrapped around him in that sort of triumphant pose there at the end, that would be a great way to go out, like a final scene, final moment of a competitive career. And that lift I mentioned earlier where she has both the skates on him, I can't even comprehend that. Those skates are sharp. That must hurt like hell. But at any rate, incredible performance, and one that has a lot of tongues wagging around the world. And it, like as I said, if you go Google Tessa and Scott, it's not Canadians that are talking about it; it's the world.
Yeah,
and it's for a lot of people that will be their enduring image of these Olympic Games. Will be that skate, and there is only one choice for a gold medal today.
Yep, there is. All right. Speaking of gold medals, let's take a look at the medal standings after day 11, according to gold medals won per country. And Norway, number 1 with 11 gold medals. Germany, number 2, 11 as well. And Canada, now number 3 with 2 gold medals won during day 11 with 8. That's a lot more than I thought we would have. And that's not bad at all. 8 gold medals for Canada. When we have more golds than silver or bronze. And that, to me, is kind of surprising.
Quickly, Kevin, just a little stat that people will find interesting. This is the 49th Olympic Games that Canada has participated in, both summer and winter. They now have more gold medals than all but 2. There's still days left.
And, Duane, hockey is not included, and curling's not included.
No guarantee in the curling golds.
Even in the hockey, like no guarantee in the hockey golds here. Maybe in the women's, no guarantee on the men's side. Netherlands are 4th with 6 gold medals in the medal standings. France 5th with the great performance of Martin Fourcade. 3 of those 5 gold medals are his. United States 6th with 5 gold medals as well. Sweden 7th with 4. Austria 4 as well in 8th spot. And Republic of Korea 9. Top 10 finishes with Japan again with 2 gold medals. And that's your top 10 in the medal standings. Duane, we'll be back tomorrow 10 a.m. for another edition of 5 Rings Daily. But Duane, I'm getting excited for tonight. Some more bobsleigh. We're getting some snowboard finally. We're getting the big air competition, maybe the biggest competition this year. It's the newest one. It got some hype behind it. And we got some great Canadians that could win. Seb Toots, Max Barrett, Mark McMorris. Great storyline tonight in Alpensia.
Exactly, and I'll look forward to that as well. There's only 6 days left, but a lot of fun stuff, a lot of stuff wrapping up. In many ways, the last 4 or 5 days this is when it really got rolling in Vancouver, if you remember back 8 years ago. So a lot of fun times yet to be had.
Exactly. And as always, you can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. We're live every day during the Olympics at 10 a.m. at youtube.com/sports podcasting network. And if you like to support us, encourage us, take the pledge. $1 a month goes a long way for your amateur sports coverage. We will continue after the games to bring you a daily show. A weekly show about the Olympics. We have Soccer Daily with Soccer Today, and we're going to continue to work hard to make sure we have at least once a week a 5 Rings podcast, and for that, we need your contribution. Take the pledge, $1 a month or more if you can, to let us know that we do a good job. And as always, until tomorrow, have a great Olympics.